What's up, all you movie lover badasses out there? Phat Samurai Guy here with Lady Phat Blood, and today we're going to review the film Logan. Here's a quick plot synopsis. In the near future, a weary Logan cares for an ailing Professor X in a hideout on the Mexican border. But Logan's attempts to hide from the world and his legacy are upended when a young mutant arrives, being pursued by dark forces. Now, this is going to be a spoiler-filled review. If you guys want to skip all of the spoilers and find out what we rated the film, go ahead and click to this time right here. Now, we're going to give you the good, we're going to give you the bad, we're going to give you the badass. First up, the good.
The look of the film is rough, it's gritty, and I'm very happy to say that in the wake of Deadpool, this movie was not a cheap R rating for the sake of being an R rating. The R rating was completely justified in this movie, and it was not gratuitously used. Everybody's saying fuck every couple of sentences. Yeah, it was a little okay, and yeah, you got some X-Men titties, which was kind of like, did we need that? But
yes.
It didn't really matter. Okay. They weren't that impressive, okay? Let's be real here. You could have done better. Anyway, I've seen better. I'm just saying, aside from the F-bombs constantly being dropped, yeah, right there.
Yes.
Okay. So aside from the F-bombs constantly being dropped, this movie felt like this was a world where violence and brutality were just a way of life, and it was part of the world, and it didn't feel like it was there just for the sake of getting people to come in and say, oh my god, it's a rated R X-Men Logan film. It wasn't like that. It didn't feel like that. It was very organic. So, that was nice. I was kind of worried about that.
Mm-hmm. And it didn't look and feel like the other X-Men movies.
No.
It was its own, it felt like its own movie.
So the performances by everybody, seeing Logan, seeing Hugh Jackman, who's been doing this for 17 years now, and Patrick Stewart, the performances, you feel the years that that both of these actors have had behind them and under their belts, and the way that the characters were written, it gave this sense of they were trying to come off with this feeling of these two have been together for so long, that they are literally the only family that they have anymore. And the Professor, he's been through some shit. They don't come right out and say exactly what happened, but they do. You hear some stuff in the background of why there are no X-Men anymore. And the Professor, he's going senile. He's got these seizures that causes people to freeze and lock up and to, go kind of crazy. And Logan is trying to hide him from the world, and they're both he's trying to just hide out and just kind of live out the rest of his life. You find out Logan is sick, which I'll get into that in the bad. But anyway, but you feel...
Nerd rant.
No. But you really feel the weight that these two characters have had, and it's one part writing, but it's one part the performances behind them. And Daphne Keane, holy shit, this little crazy psychotic little girl, she comes right the fuck out of nowhere. I'm not really big on little kids in movies, but it's mostly because most of them can't act.
Yeah.
And leave it to them having to get somebody from Europe to play the part, convincingly. But oh my god,
yeah.
She doesn't have any dialogue until about maybe a little after halfway through the film, and she conveys so much.
Mm-hmm. She killed it
with just her face and her eyes, and the relationship she ends up having with the Professor and Logan, it's very heartfelt. Mm-hmm. There are a couple of missteps, but it's only me that thinks this way. And again, I'll get into the bad. But anyway, so in the world that the whole story as a whole managed to create, it's very bleak. Mm-hmm. And it makes me hate the Wolverine even more. The last film that came out before this one, directed by the same guy, James Mangold. But as we know, that movie was botched by studio interference. Yeah. But what I loved most about the Wolverine had nothing to do with the studio interference, and you could see the tone that they were going for.
Yeah.
And I am so happy that there was none of that shit in this film, and the tone that was kind of set with the psychological damage that Wolverine had experienced by the end of X3 that carried over into that film, and he had to carry that with him. That is here full force. You see how weary Hugh Jackman is. Hugh Jackman isn't even as buff as he normally is for the film. He looks like an old man.
Old man Logan.
Exactly. He looks like this guy who's just been through so much shit, and he's just waiting to die.
He's done. Yeah, I mean, he's at this point, he's just trying to save up some money so him and Patrick Stewart can get a damn boat.
Yeah.
And just leave society, man, because they're done.
There's nothing left for these two characters, and you feel this whole weight of the situation throughout the film.
And I like all the little comparisons to the film Shane that were in the movie. They even show the movie Shane in the film on the TV in the hotel room. But yeah, the lone, mysterious gunman or character that's basically defined by violence meets up with this family and bonds with the child and then ends up dying by the end. Very similar to Logan. And now for the bad. This is more of a nitpick. We didn't really have a problem with this because going into the film, we didn't really know what to expect. So we weren't expecting a lot of action. We weren't expecting a lot. We were expecting it to have some violence because it was R-rated, but we weren't really expecting a big superhero type throwdown. We weren't expecting that at all. He does run into this character, basically a clone of him, X-24, and we'll talk more about that in the Badass. But some people might be disappointed with the fact that Logan does not have a big finale fight throwdown with a known superhero baddie from the comic books, like Mr. Sinister or Omega Red or something like that. It might be disappointing.
Yeah, or like Silver Samurai.
Yeah. Thank you, studio, for not interfering with this because they easily could have threw in that shit. So.
And to that, I would say this movie was not about that.
No, that's not what it was about.
This was a personal story. This was a personal story leading to a finale of total finality.
Yeah.
Okay, this is an ending. This is an ending of an era. And you didn't need some cheesy, schlocky, CG baddie to detract from all that. And even though the X-24 thing could be viewed as a little cheesy.
A little bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm glad they went that route. And it made it a little more interesting. And it's not like it was a major portion of the film. And when I say that, I mean it wasn't like it was the entire... purpose was the whole X-24 thing. It wasn't the purpose. It was like, they sent him after Logan and X-23 and the rest of the kids that were all part of this experiment. But that wasn't the focus. It's like, it was a major cause of what eventually happens in the film, but that wasn't like it's the big baddie. No, it was just something that happened, and I preferred it that way. I didn't need a big
But we have to warn you, just in case if that's what you're expecting. You're not going to get it.
Go watch the Wolverine if you want that.
Don't watch the Wolverine.
And again, as I was saying earlier, it's not implicitly stated what happened to the X-Men. And some people might be a little confused why we're in this bleak world where there are no mutants left. There are very few of them. And again, you have to really pay attention. I kind of preferred it that way. You don't know what happened to them.
It's subtle.
Until later on, when you start hearing these things, you hear this radio broadcast after the professor has a seizure and he freezes up a couple hundred people in this casino.
Yeah.
And when they finally escape, the professor's asleep in the truck that they've stolen. And there's a radio broadcast going on mentioning how something similar happened a year prior, and they call it the Westchester incident. Well, you come to find out, at first the professor thought that the professor is so far gone that he thought Logan had done something.
Right.
But it turns out the professor killed the X-Men.
Yeah.
And he killed a lot of other mutants because he started to lose control of his powers. And
it's crazy.
How tragic is that?
Yeah.
And again, I didn't have a problem that this wasn't overtly explained. I thought it was a little strange, and again, we've only seen the movie once, and maybe upon multiple viewings it'll make a little more sense. Why, after killing off the majority of the mutants, why are we now that's what it was. They're creating mutants that they can control.
Yeah.
That's the whole purpose of the X-23 program. Which is like, okay, why? But okay, it's fine. It's comic book logic. And so, it's a little dubious as to what the baddies in the movie are doing, but it is explained now that I think further on it. But, some people, movies are not going to be everybody's cup of tea.
Yeah.
And it sometimes it just comes down to nitpicking, and there's really not a whole lot bad going on in this movie for me.
But some people might, I want answers, I want it laid out.
Yeah. All right, so aside from everything I've just said, this is probably my only real point of contention. And again, this is something that I kind of have to brush aside. Because,
It's cheesy.
Because I have to understand, I have to kind of put myself in a general audience's perspective.
We know why this happened.
Yes.
But
Cloning somebody does not make them your biological child.
Right.
Okay, if that were the case, X-24 would be Logan's son.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's not what happened. You know, they took genetic material from all of these mutants and they created their little embryos and they popped them inside all these ladies in Mexico so they could spit out their phony mutants that they could control. The experiment failed, and so they had to create X-24, and then they had to go hunt down the rest of the kids that had escaped because they killed the majority of them, and only like 5 or 6 of these kids escaped, or however many. So my problem was that they kept, you know, Professor Xavier kept hammering it into Logan.
So, like, 5
she's your
times?
daughter, she's your daughter. Towards the end of the film, Logan was basically considering her his daughter. When Logan, okay, again, major spoiler, Logan is dying, and X-23 is sitting there crying to Logan, calling him daddy.
Yeah. A little cheesy.
Which was only for the purpose of getting tears out of the audience. Okay, now my problem was that this was a deliberate emotional manipulation towards the audience, which I have to be contentious and I have to mention it only because they kept this theme throughout where Logan and the professor were a family. You see, there's a scene where Logan is taken to the professor to the bathroom to go to the bathroom, okay? And they're they're bickering back and forth like they were an old cantankerous dad and his old ass son, just like, don't look. I don't want to look. I don't want to see nothing. What are you talking about? You know, they were literally like an old curmudgeon-y father and an old curmudgeon-y son. And when the little girl comes in, of course Logan is reluctant to help her, but the professor is like, you see shades of the old professor wanting to help this.
That was really cool.
It was like he was senile the first couple of scenes that we saw him in, and as soon as X-23 showed up, it was like the old professor came back.
It was like, oh shit, we actually have another mutant walking around.
Yeah,
he was excited.
And his natural instinct is to help her. And so when they finally have no choice but to take her with them, they start to get this sense of they're now a threesome in this family. You see her with very little to no words, how she is now seeing them as a family. They come across this really nice black family that take them into their house after they help them wrangle up their horses after this accident on the freeway. And they're sitting around together, and you see the family kind of bickering back and forth as a family, and you see her watching them, and then you see her watching the professor and Logan. And again, spoiler alert, at one point, Charles Xavier is stabbed, and it's very sad because he thinks Logan does it, and it's so sad seeing Logan telling the professor, it wasn't me, it wasn't me. That actually got me a little bit there.
And X-23 freaking out.
When X-23 sees the professor dead in the back of the truck, she freaks out. She starts screaming. You see shades of Logan going berserk in her.
It was great.
And they did it without her referring to him as grandfather.
Yeah.
So my point is that if you could have done that, you could just as easily have done it without the whole daddy bullshit.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't necessary. They successfully did it with a professor. They didn't need to do it with Logan. Again, I understand why they did it.
It did it for the audience.
And it does not in any way, shape, or form ruin the experience and the...
This is nitpick.
Yeah, the emotional impact of finally seeing these two characters, you know, die and this franchise come to an end. It doesn't ruin it for me.
We get it. We know why they did it. To get the extra tear. Pull the extra strings, the heartstrings. Fine.
I get it.
It's no nitpick.
Another thing that I thought was a little strange, suddenly Wolverine's adamantium is poisoning him.
Yeah.
Now, you can have some theories on this. You might think, well...
He's just getting old.
Is he just getting so old that he can't handle the metal within him anymore? Or has the metal within him eroded his healing ability? So, you know, you can look at it either way, but it was kind of strange. But it was interesting, though, seeing how hard of a time he had with his claws coming out.
He had to pull them out himself.
You could tell he had been through so much shit battle-wise. He had all these damage that was not healing. He had pus coming out.
He had a limp the entire film.
Yeah, the whole time. And it kind of came out of nowhere. They didn't even really come out and like explain it. He just does this passing remark that, it's killing me. And that was it. So, I mean, it's not really a huge problem, but it was kind of, well, that came out of nowhere.
Yeah. And now for the badass Snicket. Like I was saying before, we didn't know what to expect with this film. The trailer looked really interesting.
We saw the Red Band trailer, and we thought,
we knew there was gonna be some violence. Yeah. But holy shit, we were not expecting this movie to have this much action.
Proud of you.
There's a lot of action in this movie, and this much violence. It took fucking 17 years, but it was worth the wait, okay? It's worth the wait to finally see Logan go off, finally see the Wolverine, okay, completely obliterate and destroy his opponents, go Berserker's Barrage, that whole end fight sequence in the forest. Oh my God. It was so fucking badass, especially when the camera was tracking the action and Wolverine was taking people out, and then all of a sudden X-23's like bouncing off other people and they're doing combinations. I was like, holy shit! Yeah. And X-24 is like nuts, man, because it was like, man, what if Wolverine was evil?
Was like strictly in Berserker rage.
Yeah,
that's basically what. X-23
pretty crazy. But X-23 really was the surprise here.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to think of X-23 yet. Okay, when she's sitting there eating her little cereal, all right, and the Reavers and the mercenaries, they go in to get her. All of a sudden you just hear her screaming, and then you just see her walking out, and I'm like looking, I'm like, what's in her arm there? I'm like kind of saying like, is she carrying a little backpack? Like what is that, right? She's carrying a head. She's carrying one of the Reavers' head, okay? She walks out in front of the rest of the Reavers that are on the outside, and she's carrying the head of the guy she just decapitated, okay? And throws that shit right in front of us, says, take that shit. And then just snickets out her claws, come out of her toes, and fucks them up.
No. 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 Fuck.
Yeah.
Dude!
She's wild. Alright, so, overall, I'm thinking this movie had way more heart than it should have. It had way more violence than we deserved.
Yeah.
It was a fantastic end and a fitting tribute to the career of Logan and Patrick Stewart, Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart as these two characters that we've been, seeing for better and for worse for the past 17 years. I'm really glad that the Logan franchise was able to end on this low high note, as it were, even though you negate everything you did with Days of Future Past, because fuck that happy ending that you were given by the end of that film. But I kind of like it. I kind of like bleak endings like that because I'm a little whatever. Anyway, I enjoyed it, whether it, washed away the goodness that happened or not, however you want to look at it. One of the better comic book films out there.
Oh yeah, I really like the part where X-23 takes the cross over Wolverine's grave and she flips it to show the X.
Yep.
That was very well done, very well done. And the movie fades to black and you hear that awesome Johnny Cash song during the end credits. The theater was quiet.
Yeah.
The theater was quiet. You could hear a pin drop.
Yeah.
Everybody was just like, damn it. Damn it. You pulled the strings and it worked.
That's how you end it.
So, what do you rate the film?
I'm going 4.8.
All right. And for me, I'm going to go a little bit higher because it's the perfect mix. I'm a little biased with this one. But it's a perfect mix of nostalgia for me and exceeding my expectations. Finally get to see my boy Wolverine do his thing. And it's just a combination of that. So I kind of have no choice. I have no choice, damn it. I give Logan 5 out of 5 stars. That's it for today's episode. Let us know in the comments below what you guys thought of Logan. And as always, we'd like to thank all of you for watching. And we'll see you guys next time. Sneak it.
These are the Oscars, and this is my dream. I am a slumdog, I am a wrestler, I'll rent the arena. I'm Wolverine.
Like, share, subscribe. Like, share, subscribe.
Snick it, snick it, snick it, snick it.